No-lift policies and how they're going to affect Methodists. There are 5 main topics that will be discussed throughout this PowerPoint. Topic discussion. For me, no-lift policies is something that I'm passionate about as both a physical therapist assistant student and a CNA. I've hurt my back once in my job, and I would love to never have to hurt it again. I want to see a change for employees to find the best way so that we cannot be injured at our job, as that is how our job should work. My original hopes with learning about no-lift policies was just to see if it would be something that would even be possible, and now I am more passionate about making sure that this change does actually go through, as it is something Methodist is looking at and I think would be a great benefit. You might be asking, what is a no-lift policy? A no-lift policy is any elimination of manual handling in otherwise life-threatening situations. If somebody is about to die, this policy would not take an effect, or if there is something that would majorly need to be changed and there is no way to safely maneuver or manually handle the patient. But most cases on most floors, such as my own in oncology, this is not the case, and there is a way to implement no-lift policies. You might be asking, what is manual handling? As Stevens reported for both policies and manual handling, the definition is any transporting or supporting of a load in any way with either by hand. So any motion such as pulling, pushing, tugging, anything like that is all a part of manual handling. With no-lift policies, there are many different ways that the policy can be implemented by actually moving the patient. There are slide boards, such as the one shown above, where the patient can sit on the little and then be moved across by using their own upper body weight, so that we do not have to move them across things. There are also straw sheets that you can use to help pull and boost patients up in bed that can be hooked up to a manual lift so that we don't have to actually pull the patient. There are lifts such as the one shown there that can be used for transporting or moving patients from one area to another safely. There are discs such as pivot that have like a little circle on the bottom and then a disc, so that way you can just kind of round and transfer somebody over. And there are other options beyond those, but those are some of the really big ones that would be very involved and something Methodist could use or does use. Why do we need no-lift policies? As our population gets older and as people's weight continues to increase as obesity has currently, Krill and them have found that it is the best option to support the patients and the loads that will be taken on by the nursing staff. This can also reduce injuries for staff and patients, as it is not forcing them to use their own bodies to lift people, generally some of which can be way heavier than the nurses themselves. It is the safest option to reduce strains, tears, and other issues such as those. In the end, no-lift policies and the manual equipment that goes with those are all cheaper than constant work combis. Even though the lifts, like the one shown before, are very expensive, they generally can be supported and refunded after a little bit because of the amount of work comp injuries that would be decreased. And this will also increase better outcomes for the patients, as this will force them to learn how to start supporting themselves and moving their own selves instead of relying on the staff to get them from the bed to the chair when they could do it themselves with some physical therapy and building up strength. There are a few drawbacks that can come with no-lift policies, as there still can be injuries to staff and patients if the equipment or the way of seeing patients is not done correctly, which is why training will be very important in the implementation of policies. For very small clinics or facilities, the prices of no-lift equipment, such as mechanical devices as shown earlier, can be very pricey and very difficult to get. One of the articles that I had read by Krill had shown that the equipment that the nurse built in that study was more than they could afford, which is how they realized that it was important to have no-lift policy and the management found a way to get those equipment so they could better protect their staff, and it has worked out for them. And the last big drawback is how the policies are implemented. If done right, they will not work, and they will just end up failing and just cause more issues than they were supposed to. Leadership has a huge effect on no-lift policies. Leaders must be involved to make these policies work. Leaders are the people that will help motivate and continue to support their staff as the staff needs it to get through and understand the situations and the rules with no-lift policies. In my interview with Cheryl Bohusik, she said that it helps overall with management as you can help increase morale and decrease turnover by not having employees that have gotten injured. When you have less turnover, it is easier to understand who you are working with, and it overall is better for the company and the people that are working on that floor. Every leader wants happy employees, she said. People in pain are not employees. This is why we need these no-lift policies. Thomas and Thomas also wrote that unit managers, such as Cheryl, are influential for developing support for the staff safely, so the staff can best understand what they are expected of and what are the best options with these policies. How to implement this is to make sure that there's clear communication. Thomas and Thomas found that the biggest communication that needs to be occurring is in the way that people are trained. You cannot just simply train somebody once and call it good. There must be ongoing training, and there must be training that is beneficial to employees by facing situations they will understand, and not just telling them, oh, this is what you need. They need to understand how this will affect them and see it from their point of view and not just a leader point of view. There's also a major culture and attitude change, as many staff sometimes feel that these policies and mechanical lifts and other devices are just harder or take longer to use compared to just manual lifting. And while this might be true in the beginning, after people get used to working and moving around with these lifts, things are faster and it will become easier and safer. There are also many barriers that can come with no-lift policies, as they're around what is usually already there. Krill found that one of the biggest ones is room space, as it can be very difficult to move patients around when you have a very narrow room. Overall, there's a lot of planning that has to go into what you're doing. As Cheryl pointed out, you have everything planned and prepared. You must have scenarios set up and be ready for questions and change that will occur. Not everybody will like the new ideas, but if you work with the staff and listen to them, things will go better than just trying to tell them this is what you're doing. Overall, I think no-lift policies are very beneficial, and for Methodists specifically, it would be a great change to see.